Baxie's musical podcast.
Resistance is useless!
Here's an indisputable fact for you. The most successful all-female rock band of all time were the Go-Go's, who over the course of 4 studio albums sold 7 million copies. Here's another indisputable fact. The Go-Go's were also the only female band in history to have a #1 album in the country using their own songs and playing their own instruments. That happened with their first album, Beauty and the Beat, in 1981, an album that would eventually go double platinum. But it had never happened before that record, and here's the amazing part. It's never happened since. This is why the Go-Go's are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and many others are not. They're there because they deserve to be. And here's the thing. The Go-Go's weren't just successful because they happened to be women. They were successful because they happened to be a really good band that cranked out some timeless classics. We Got the Beat, Our Lips Are Sealed, Vacation, Head Over Heels, all huge hits that were released in just a 3-year period of time. Combine that with a pounding schedule of relentless touring, MTV videos, and you begin to realize that the Go-Go's were a band that earned every bit of their success. These weren't just a bunch of girls that wanted to be in a band. This was a band that wanted to be great and were willing to work for it. In 2021, Go-Go's drummer Gina Schock released a book called Made in Hollywood. It's a book that combines her life story of leaving her hometown of Baltimore, driving to Hollywood, and joining one of the most important bands of the 1980s, combined with some amazing stories and pictures that she took throughout her entire career. Now, I will warn you ahead of time. She and I were speaking in a real-life windstorm in California, which knocked her off of Zoom, and we finished over the phone because sometimes shit happens. But we continued on, and it was still great. This is my conversation with Gina Schock of the Go-Go's on Baxie's Musical Podcast.
Mike, hi.
Hey, Gina, how are you?
I'm tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, I know. I understand, but I'm glad you're here.
Well, me too. Thank you. Thank you.
So I read the book the other day, Made in Hollywood, and I thought it was absolutely great. The pictures in it are amazing. The kind of pictures you'd never really see in an authorized band book. Like it's usually these are the pictures we want you to see, not the pictures that really happened. I mean, that's pretty cool the way you did it.
Yeah. I had been taking photographs since I left Baltimore, and when I was a kid, I had Instamatic cameras and I'd go to concerts and take photos. I always loved photography, and so I was taking photos of the band constantly when we were on tour. I had a camera with me, and would capture stuff that I thought was interesting, or get the girls to do certain poses that I thought were funny, or different scenarios that we would all get a kick out of, and then I'd photograph it. We'd all laugh. So yes, it started out. This book started out just being a book of my photography, and then the publisher said, "Hey, how about we, can you give us some words?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, because I've never written a book, so I don't know that I'm capable of that." And then the fellow that I was working with, Steve, said, "Gina, let's give it a try." He was sort of helping me put this together. Every word in there is mine, but Steve was really helping me, pull everything out of me and remember everything that had happened. And so I started looking at the photos, and guess what? The words just started flowing. And so that was a pleasant surprise, because I really didn't know I was capable. But, Mike, you surprise yourself time and time, or certainly I have. And I think everybody, if you push yourself, just push yourself, because if it's something that you love or something you know about, you can talk about it.
Well, I'm reading the book, and and I'm reading the beginning of the book, and the one story that kind of leaps out at you, or leaps out at me, is one of these things where I try to put myself in your shoes or in the shoes of your parents, and I'm trying to imagine what my parents would have done if I packed up my drums in the family car and drove off to Hollywood. I don't think they'd let me go unless I picked up my room first.
Yeah, I think about that a lot now, of what it must have taken for them to allow me, the baby, to pick up everything and, get in my dad's truck, everything I own, and a friend of mine from high school, and drive across country telling everybody the next time you see me, I'm going to be a rock star. But my parents, God, they had such faith in me, and really, I was they were part of the driving force behind me wanting to make this decision, because I wanted to make them proud. I wanted to do something that they could, talk to their friends about and go, "Wait, look what my daughter's done," or something. That was important to me. I wanted to make it. I wanted to be able to buy a house and do all the things that my parents had done. Because like growing up, if you bought a house and you had a nice car, I grew up in a really middle class setting, and
Yeah.
and that was big stuff to us. But I certainly had those aspirations. And then it went beyond that to, hey man, one day you're going to see me on that stage, because I'm doing what I love, and I know I can make it if I just put my time in. I was always taught by my dad, especially, but both of my parents, that if you put your time into something, you'll reap the rewards, the fruits of the rewards of whatever it is that you are, spending time working on.
I think that's a great lesson because, the confidence and ambition and the confidence that your parents had in you. I mean, that could
They definitely instilled confidence in me, though, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, I grew up believing that I could be president. It was they sort of, whatever you want, you can achieve. You just got to put the time in, stay focused, and do the right thing. That's what it's about,
Yeah. But also your age too. I mean, at that young of an age, you don't even know any better. I mean, if you're confident and have,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. If you told like a 55-year-old guy, and I'm 56, that I'm gonna pack up everything and join a band, I don't think that would fly very well, and I think even I would
No,
have no
because
confidence in it.
no, but that's about being young and
Yeah.
really believing that dreams can come true, and believe, as hokey as that sounds, well, guess what? It does happen sometimes. And, I, when you're young, you feel like you're invincible and there's no stopping you. And I fully believe that. I believe that I could go to LA and make it in the business.
I'm old enough to remember the 70s and the 80s and how families tended to totally reject the idea of their kids even listening to punk records. Um, that doesn't sound like that was such a big hamper for you. It sounded like it didn't really matter what kind of music that you were playing. Your parents were going to support you, and
My,
you had the confidence to get there.
Well, Mike, I don't know if you can hear this, but I'm in the middle of a windstorm. I live up on a hill in San Francisco, and the wind is howling, and my windows, it's like it's coming through my windows. My God, it's really loud. And then something on my roof keeps going, you hear it?
That's
Anyway,
quite
I'm
right.
sorry. My parents loved music. I grew up with a lot of music in our house. My parents were into big band music, and they loved dancing, so they were always playing music. And I grew up with a great appreciation of music because of them. It was, I learned it at a young age, that music it was important to them. It changed the way you feel. It made you think and feel differently. It could affect you in a visceral way. And that's something I grew up with. So when I started listening to music on my own, they didn't have to be in my bedroom listening to it, but they let me do what I wanted to do when it came to music, because they knew I loved it so much. I was so passionate. Every penny that I got of my allowance, I spent on music, whether it was buying records or subscription to magazines, or imported LPs, or tickets to every show that came to Baltimore, T-shirts, anything I could get my hands on that was about music. I just couldn't stop. I had
Yeah.
to have more and more and more. I was really passionate about it, and I still am.
There's a great story in the book about you playing for Edith Massey, and if people may not know the name, I think all you have to do is go back and look at a John Waters film, and you know exactly who that is. I mean, she really was a Baltimore institution, and you started playing with her, Edie and the Eggs. Tell me about that band, because what a character this woman was.
Oh my God, Edie was such a sweetheart. I loved her. She was a dear soul. And all she ever wanted to be was famous. And she had a shop on Broadway in the Fells Point area of Baltimore. And when I was like 19 or 20, I moved into Fells Point. I got studio apartment. So I would walk down and see her all the time. She had a thrift store called Edith's Shopping Bag. And she would be, the minute you walked in the door, she was sitting there on the left-hand side in front of her cash register, there behind her cash register with her cat Lovey at her side. And then she had another woman, Jeannie, who was sort of like her slave lady that looked like, Jeannie kind of looked like a witch. She had long gray hair and she didn't say much, but she had really, her makeup was adventurous, let's say. She's very colorful.
A
And
pretty diplomatic way of putting it.
oh my God, what such characters. And I loved her. And I'd walk in and I'd always talk to Edie. And he said, "Oh, Gina, how you doing?" So one day I walked in, "Oh, Gina, I'm putting together a punk rock band." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to California, New York and all that." So when she told me that, I was like, "Yes, Edie, I'll help put the band together. I'll do whatever." And sure enough, put a band together, myself and two other girls. And it was just like punk rock. And we did songs that like Edie had sang prior to this band, like Punks Get Off the Grass and whatever. Anyway, God, she was so sweet. And I had a great time. We went to Philly, New York, LA, San Francisco. First time I'd ever been on a plane. You know, really, I look back and if it wasn't for Edie, I don't know if the Go-Go's would have happened in the way they did.
When you do get to California and you've driven your dad's truck all the way across the country and,
Yeah.
and you get there, it sounds like things kind of progress very, very quickly. You meet some of the ladies at a party, and next thing you know,
Yes.
you're playing in a band. So tell me about
Yes.
how fast that was. Was it as kind of like a whirlwind as the book
Yes.
kind of describes?
Absolutely. Yeah, because you know what? I was on a mission, man. When I got out there, I put my name in every record store and all the guitar centers and all that stuff. And, you know, female drummer looking to join a band, blah, 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 whatever my influences. And I got in bands right away. But the fellow that I was staying with, a guy named Steve Martin, not the Steve Martin, but Steve Martin. He was like, "Gina, we got to get you." And he also, you know, told me to come out and that I could stay with him until I found a place and got myself settled. So, you know, Steve was helping me and taking me to a lot of shows and introduced me to the punk scene out there, which I was just completely enamored with. And he said, "You know, you gotta go see the Go-Go's." He took me to see the Go-Go's and they were hilarious and very colorfully dressed. And they were really kind of acting tough, but they were just had these sweet little faces and sang these songs that were really tough. But, you know, it was like, forget about it. So I went to see them. I loved them. I thought that they needed a lot of work, but there was something special about the band that spoke to me. They were having so much fun on stage and they were really interacting with the audience. They didn't care whether they played everything properly, and they weren't, you know, and I was so serious and I needed to lose a little bit of that. You know, I was just way too serious. Anyway, I met them at Steve's brother's party, Doug, that was his brother, redheaded twins. And I met Jane, I think Belinda and Margot at Doug had a party. He lived in Santa Monica and had a party and it was a small scene, the punk scene. Everyone knew each other. Everyone was very supportive of each other. I went to the party and I met the girls and they were like, "We're looking for a drummer." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm looking to join a band." Anyway, I was already in two bands, but I knew that wasn't where I wanted to be. Ultimately, it was
Right.
just sort of passing time and keeping my chops up. Anyway, I invited them over to Steve's house where I had a PA set up in the living room, my drums, amps, everything set up in his living room. What an angel he was. And they came over and we started playing. I think Beatnik Beach was the first one. They sent me, I think they dropped off like a cassette of the songs and I, you know, played them a couple of times. We played Beatnik Beach and it was like, we all looked at each other and the deal was done. We knew right away there was a great connection.
Wow.
And they were super impressed by my drumming skills because I had been playing longer than any of them had. I had been playing in bands in Baltimore doing 4 45-minute sets a night.
But
I wasn't great, but I was pretty good.
But every great band says that when they have the right people, when the chemistry is there, it's like there's no stopping you. And like up until the point where you find it, you never realize how important it is until all of a sudden it smacks you right in the face and say, "This is what it's going to be."
Yeah, and I think the girls, they were just having fun. They were just wanting to hang out with their friends and they had just picked up their instruments. with the exception of Charlotte. Charlotte didn't know how to play. She was playing bass in another band, but she picked up guitar for the Go-Go's. But everybody was sort of knew what they were doing. Like I said, I was on a mission, and what I injected into the Go-Go's was get your ass to rehearsal 5 nights a week, work every day, and then go to rehearse, because I knew that I could pull something out of everybody. I felt like something was there, and we just needed to sit in a room and work on it. And we did. Everything changed. We started rehearsing. They got serious about what they were doing because I was dead serious about coming out there to make it. And I know it rubbed off on the guys, and they fell in line and wanted to do it. And it wasn't just, oh, we're doing this for fun. It was rehearsing 5 nights a week. So things changed pretty rapidly.
I think one of the things that people may not realize about the Go-Go's, because I mean, you guys had hits and they were big hits, and you were women and you were writing your own songs. The people, it sounded like as you're trying to get record companies to pay attention to you, or even radio stations to play the singles, that because you were women, people tended to focus on that as opposed to focus on what was the most true, and that you guys were a real hardworking band that was becoming greater and greater as the days were going by. And there's something about record companies that just, they only hear what they see rather than what they're really there to do, and that is to listen to the music and say, okay, this is something that is much bigger than all of us. But 2 years ago, I interviewed Miles Copeland. He had just written a book, and we were talking about IRS, and he was talking about just that. He said, if record companies had just stopped being idiots, they would have realized what they had in you, and that was a great freaking band. And it just shows that that sometimes the blind, maybe you call it sexism, I just don't, or it just the categorization. This is only a girl band as opposed to it's a great band that just happens to be girls.
Right. Well, people, record companies tend to be conservative, and so they don't want to spend money, and nobody wants to lose their job, and so it's a tough situation for them, and especially at that time because there had not been an all girl band that had been hugely successful. And so, thank God for Miles Copeland, because he was a small label and he could afford to do something. He didn't put out much. I think we spent $60,000 making that first record. So he was like, he thought we were great. It was like, oh my God, an all girl band, and they can kind of play, and I like what they're singing, and I like, so he got it. And he didn't have much to lose because he was the head of the company. It was his company. Right. So, he made the decision.
But one of the things that he talked about was, not only how important IRS was for the Go-Go's, but maybe more importantly, how important the Go-Go's were for IRS. I mean, without the explosive release of that record and a worldwide success, that label may have gone under, much, much faster.
Yeah. We definitely funded IRS for many, many years, allowed them to have bands like REM, we funded IRS, and Miles knows it, but that's okay. That's all cool. It's the way I guess it should work,
Yep.
Helping other folks out, helping other new bands get signed. Good, man. I'm glad we made money for him. So that he could sign bands like REM.
One of the things you did talk about in your book was about going to England and getting to know the Specials and Madness, and how important that relationship wound up being with you guys. I mean, the least of which, being, Terry Hall helping to write Our Lips Are Sealed with Jane. I mean, that was a pretty important, moment for you guys, because when you came back, all of a sudden the whole world and attention on the Go-Go's was very, very different than before you'd left.
Well, we went to England thinking we were going to be huge over there. Like, they're way ahead of what Americans like. The English will get us, and they hated us. And we didn't do well. We did not do well over there, but boy, did we learn how to be on stage with a tough audience. It was a school of hard knocks, and we passed. We got through it, and we toughened us up. We could play in front of anybody when we got done playing, up with the Specials and Madness. And the Our Lips Are Sealed was just basically a love letter that Terry sent to Jane. And she got this letter, and she, thought it took some of the words and wrote "Our Lips Are Sealed" and brought it into the band one day. And she was really nervous about showing us the song. And she played it. We were like, "Oh my God, we love this. Let's fix a couple things up here, and it'll be ready to go." So while we were over there, we had done a single with a label called Stiff Records. They did "We Got the Beat." That was being played. It was an import here in the States from Britain, and it was being played in clubs. We came back to the States with this newfound success in the and certainly on the East Coast and the West Coast, because all the hot clubs were playing "We Got the Beat," and every place we played was sold out and then some. So that really changed things for us. Then Miles and other labels started paying more attention, but still everybody was afraid except for Miles Copeland.
Almost immediately after that record comes out, I was in college in 1984, 1983, still in high school at that point. But girls all over the place were starting to dress and starting to mimic their favorite Go-Go's. It resonated with so many people, especially young women. You're right. There hadn't been a whole lot of success with all-girl bands, and there hadn't been almost any real precedent for girls who were writing their own songs and playing their own instruments.
Right.
It was
Right. Yeah. Normally, a lot of the times, the songs, even if it wasn't a girl band, songs were written by other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were sort of the first to write our own songs and play our own instruments on the record and play live with nobody behind the curtain and all that kind of shit. That was something that we were quite proud of, but it was something that we did with ease. So, I mean, we weren't as knocked out about it as a lot of other people were, it's just something we did, and we were having fun at it. And we certainly touched a chord, in America at that particular time. And God, all the girls went crazy. And certainly, our biggest audience were all with young girls who wanted to be like the Go-Go's. And what a wonderful thing.
I mean, it is a wonderful thing when a band winds up having that much influence, not just with their music, but there is, a cultural significance with how people were listening, not only to just new music, but they were listening to what was, in fact, a punk band on a small label, being responsible for cultural shift. All of a sudden, these young women were listening to that kind of music, and that was opening up their ears to a whole, new genre of stuff.
Yeah, well, we always, and as far as I can say, I've always considered the Go-Go's at heart. We are a punk band.
Yeah.
And when we play live, we're pretty rough around the edges when we play live. On the record, we're a lot more polished, and that's usually what happens when you make a record. How every couple of years things shift and something comes in and people are like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for something like this to happen." Well, we happened at the right time, and there's no accounting for timing, right?
That's right.
We just happened, and it was the right time in music, and the advent of MTV. My God, what a change that made for us. They loved us, so they were playing our videos constantly. They couldn't get enough of the Go-Go's, and we were quite happy to give them whatever they asked for. And they were so, they were a young company, but they were powerful. We knew that they were going to change things.
Before the album comes out, you guys are a hardworking band. You're playing in clubs. You're going to England, and you're touring around. And then all of a sudden, your album is platinum, double platinum, and it sells.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, because of MTV and a lot of other things, really become one of the most recognizable bands of that entire decade. Who didn't know who the Go-Go's were? Even if you weren't even aware of their music, who couldn't identify the Go-Go's? As someone who's in that moment and we talked about the whirlwind of asked to join the band and playing with them. This whirlwind sounds like it was even bigger and may have been really overwhelming. Tell me what that was like.
Well, we did not know how to say no. So we were constantly just touring. And then if we weren't touring, we were recording. So we were out on tour. We were slugging away in the States in a van, playing clubs. And Miles called our manager Ginger and said, "Hey, what do you think about opening for the Police?" And she came to us and we're like, "Are you kidding? You bet." So, but of course, Miles managed the Police and was the head of our label. So we went from playing in clubs to playing in 20,000 arenas. And pretty soon things started changing because when we stepped on stage, the place was almost packed. So people were coming to see both bands, not just the headliner. And that was a big sign to us that things were changing. People were liking what we do. And then, we had been playing these big arenas. We did Saturday Night Live. And then within 2 weeks, we were over 1 million. That was quite a moment because the guys in the police, they all came in with champagne after we got off stage and said, congratulations, you just topped us in the charts. You're number one and your album's number one and you sold 1 million, blah, blah, blah. And so they were very sweet about it. It was a moment I'll never forget. And we were outselling the police at that point because we were happening big. We were hitting it big time. And it was all because, Miles was smart. The record had been out for 6 months and was sort of just not moving very quickly. But once we started playing those big, and we got that, people had that sort of access to the band, things changed immediately. And then back then, Saturday Night Live, if you played Saturday Night Live, something big was going to happen. Because they were cutting edge with the bands they had on. And I mean, I just remember I want to watch Saturday Night Live to see who the musical guest was every weekend, Sort of like Ed Sullivan used to be.
Right.
Who's the musical guest? I want to watch it just to see it.
Right. Maybe you're watching the night that the Replacements get kicked off, or Elvis Costello gets banned for life, or
right. You never know.
Fear breaks the stage, that kind of thing.
Love it. Love it. Yeah.
So in 82, you guys were nominated for the Grammy for Best New Artist, and you're nominated with Adam Ant, Sheena Easton, Luther Vandross, James Ingram, and you.
Right.
And Sheena Easton wins for Morning Train. I mean, not to throw any shade on Sheena Easton, I'm sure she's a lovely woman, but I'm thinking there's only one of you that was cranking out an album that you wrote yourself, played yourself, and sold 1 million copies. I mean, it's just like,
yeah, man, that was crazy, right? We were like, you gotta be kidding. we really couldn't believe that we didn't get it. We certainly should have won that award, but hey, it worked out that way. We were just a bunch of we got up and left immediately and went and started partying. We were like, hell with this. Something's wrong with this system if we didn't just win. I don't know.
I mean, okay, maybe Luther Vandross I see, but I mean, over Sheena Easton, I don't see that one at all.
Yeah, right. Luther Vandross, I could get that, man. Yeah,
yep, absolutely.
Talented man. My God.
So as the band goes on, Vacation comes out, and all of a sudden things start to fracture a little bit. First things first. I mean, you get seriously ill with a heart condition, but then after that, it just seems like the expectations of replicating incredible success, different agendas, different personalities. At some point, this thing starts to break down on you guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's not an unusual story. I mean, you hear that a lot, especially with bands that have, immediate, enormous success. In your mind, though, what do you think it was that made it kind of, fracture? Okay. So here's the part where the wind starts blowing around and messes up our Zoom connection. Now, the rest of the interview was completed over the phone until it was interrupted again. Here's Gina's publicist explain what happens next.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So we did the audio dial-in because we don't know what's happening, but the wind is, I mean, the TVs, everything is went crazy around here. The wind is really whipping.
That's all right.
So the wind is so, we got a new refrigerator, and we had a refrigerator out front, Mike, and the wind is so bad here, and her porch is parked right in front of the house.
Right.
And like 6 feet away, and the wind was taking the refrigerator, which has 4 wheels on the bottom, from moving. And luckily we happened to have a guy working in the garage, and he heard this noise, the scraping noise. He looked outside, and the refrigerator was heading towards the porch, and he jumped in front of it. And so we heard this noise. So we looked out the window just in time, I guess, for us to see him with the refrigerator.
I hope he gets a tip, because that's him putting his life on the line.
That was crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I would get in front of a moving refrigerator. He's a big dude. All right, bud. Here, Gina. Pass the phone to her.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God, Mike! I looked out the window too, and I was like, "Window, it's going to hit the car!" And he jumped in front. Oh my God!
So is the car and the fridge okay?
Yeah. See, I have 2 cars, and I keep the Porsche in the garage, and I have another SUV. I have a Maserati SUV, which it won't even fit in the garage, so I keep that out in front of the house. So I got both the cars in front of the garage and the house right now because we're in the garage rearranging stuff. Well, how are the drums? I got to come in and set the drums up today. Jesus Christ. I've got so much going on, like crazy. Anyway, let's finish this up, baby, and get it right.
So anyway, I was asking you about, when the band starts to break up and what was leading up to that.
Things were getting pretty tense because, some members of the band were making a lot more than others, and that seemed really wrong to me. So we were trying to address that in the middle of working constantly. And also, this was a period of time when people were we were starting to make a lot of money. People were using a lot of drugs, and things were just getting a little out of control. And then beneath it were, decisions that had been made when the band first began there were poor choices by the people that we had surrounding us. And it should, as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people, everything should have been split 100% between the 5 members of the band. It just should have been, because we all worked so hard. It's like, yeah, there's one thing to write a song. Yeah, you got to have a certain talent to write a song. Well, I agree, but you better have a platform to show that song, or else it doesn't mean diddly squat. It don't mean a goddamn thing. You got to have somewhere to show it. You got to have a platform. Hey, check out this song. The Go-Go's were the platform for anybody in the band that was writing songs.
And you're all participating in the arrangements of those songs and everything else.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the 5 of us are what made it was the chemistry between the 5 of us that made the Go-Go's what they were. If one thing would have been different, who knows how it would have turned out. But you know what? The chemistry was perfect. And there's, you can't buy that. You can't buy that. And so I felt, and always will feel, that do the right thing, man. Everybody's as important as the next. One person is important as the next. And certainly all 5 of us really made the band happen. And, I know I use this example all the time, but I think it's the perfect example is, what do you think would have happened to We Got the Beat without that drum beat? Think it would have been a hit? I don't get a dime from that song, which is really crazy. Most people think I get the percentage because the drum beat is what the song is all about. Let's face it. And, but that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
And so that's a little tough to take, but I let it go. There's other, I became a good songwriter, and, it's okay. I got songs with Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez, and that made me, feel my oats. That made me know, hey, I can do it. Just as good as the next person. But so things started to get, in a bad place, and added the fuel of everybody having a lot of money and drugs. That didn't help the situation. And we didn't know how to communicate back then, Mike. We should have sat down and had counseling. We should have, oh boy, yeah.
As I said earlier, that's the kind of stuff that bands go through, all the time, where there are so many pressures on artists, and they can very easily just have it all fall apart on them. But at the same token, in spite of all that stuff, you guys did get back together, and while you would never necessarily think of Jane Fonda as being like the hostage negotiator for the Go-Go's, she was pretty pretty instrumental in getting you guys to at least communicate together and then play together, and then
yes, she was the person, and we all, oh my God, that sounds making me go fucking crazy. Do you hear this? Oh my God, babe. I'm just taking a look out the front window. Afraid the damn tree's going to fall on my house. Anyway, yeah, Jane Fonda, you got to love that, right? She was so cool. I remember she invited us to her house in Santa Monica. And this is something that sticks with me. When I walked in the front door, right to the side, there was a table, and it was full of family photos. And I thought right off the bat, I like this woman. I like who she is. Look at this. It's all about family, because family's so important to me, And I thought she's got to be cool. Well, she was wonderful. I just adore her. And we wanted to be in it. It was a environmental incentive to be put on the ballot. So yeah, we were happy to be a part of that. And then we started, everybody started hanging out and having dinner. And before you know it, we were on tour again.
You guys have made a number of attempts to put a final tour together. And this last time things were interrupted by COVID. Where do things stand right now with the Go-Go's. Is it something that you could
Right.
reconsider, or is it done?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because there's 5 people in the band. I can only speak for myself and tell you that I love playing in this band, and I'm super grateful for this band, and I hope that we can play forever and ever. I don't think everybody feels that way. I know, especially Belinda. She's in the UK doing her thing, but you know, I don't know how it's gonna end up. I just know that I always love playing with this band. It gave me everything that I have. It made me the person and shaped me and molded me into the person that I am today. It was part of my life education, you know, world education. It was the Go-Go's. And so I'm, like I say, always grateful, always want to play. I mean, it's like, because the chemistry's so great. But you know what? We're like any other family. We have our differences. We fight, we argue, we cry, and we make up. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've all at one point or another said, you know, fuck you, I'm done with this. I don't want to put up with this shit anymore, blah, blah, blah. Just like family. And then, you know, a month or a week later or a year later, we're back together. So It's just back and forth with this band. But, I mean, like I said, I, for one, hope that it just continues forever and ever. What'd you say, Raina? What's down? The fence? Jesus Christ almighty, the fucking fence fell down. Oh, my God. I got to call you back. We got a big problem. I got to call you back.
All right.
I'll call you back. Bye.
No problem. The fucking fence blew down. And even though I gave her a chance to back out of the interview and take care of it, Gina was a real sport and insisted that she call me back and wrap things up. This is the rest of my interview with Gina Schock of the Go-Go's. Yeah, here you were thinking you're going to have a nice little interview with some radio guy from 1,000 miles away, and now look at you.
Yeah. Well,
tell him when you came outside, look at it, how the worker here was holding the tree from falling onto the porch while I quickly moved the porch, so the tree was coming down on the porch.
Did you hear that?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So I came out and he had this big strap around that he like a moving strap or whatever, and he's using that tying on the tree and then stopping the tree from holding. Now this is the guy that jumped in front of the moving refrigerator to stop it from hitting the porch. Then he's got the tree, and I'm like, dear Lord, this guy. And then the fence fell down on him.
Oh my God.
He was holding the tree. Well, we moved the cars from in front of the house.
Well, he's making his paycheck today. That's for damn sure. Has happened.
All right, I'm okay. Here we go. Let's do it. Okay, ready.
Okay. So as a kid, I had 2 drum teachers. I had a guy, an older jazz guy who was just, you know, cranky and vile, but a terrific jazz drummer. But my second drum teacher was this woman who was absolutely phenomenal. And she was just, literally just terrific drummer, real skilled. And that was at a time when, you know, like female drummers were pretty rare. And now if you go online, you're seeing all these women playing drums, and it's and really gravitating towards the instrument. When you see how many, you know, women are picking up drums and percussions, tell me what you think of that, because I think it's fantastic. Gender doesn't have to define whether or not you can pick up the sticks and beat the shit out of drums.
No, I love the fact that there are so many women these days that are drumming and they're playing drums or percussion. It's wonderful to see, you know. The instrument does not have a gender, and so whoever's playing it doesn't have to work. That shouldn't be a part of what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just happy to see that there's you know, things are changing. It takes time. Change always takes time, but it's working out really well. Let's be honest. I see so many young girls sitting at drum kits. I go on Instagram, and there'll be a young girl that's really kicking ass. I'm like, yeah, don't be afraid, baby. Just do what you love.
That's it. I also like there's a woman out there. I don't know if you who Dorothea Taylor is, but she's a woman who's probably.
Of course, I know who she is. That older lady that plays drums.
She's fantastic. She's so much fun to watch, and
I love her.
You know, she knows her stuff, and I just watch I watch her play. I'm going, yeah, no, she kicked my ass all over the place. She's phenomenal.
Oh my God, I love it. She sits down to she's doing all drum rudiments.
Yeah.
badass.
She totally is. And the funny part about it, when I was a kid, that first drum teacher would just get incensed if I couldn't hit a paradiddle right. And it's like, well, and at some point, like, well, I don't need to know rudiments. It's like, well, yeah, no, you kind of do.
You know what? Here's the main thing with drumming is, if your timing's not good, don't play drums. Just don't, playing drums, it's about keeping time, man. And it's about feeling a groove and having soul. That's what it's about. But really, before you even have any of that soul, your timing's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
I think you got to be able to sit down and play with a click.
There are ways to improve on that, but you either have that skill or you're never going to quite get there.
Yeah. I don't know. You are the foundation of whatever song that you're playing. And if you don't have it really solid, everything that you lay on top of it's going to be all kind of warbly and weird. I just feel like you really got to be solid.
Yeah.
And you got to have soul. You got to make me believe. You got to make me believe what you're playing. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there is something about drumming which I've always felt is true, no matter how bad your day is going or what's going on in your life. Like, say, for example, like a windstorm almost kills your car and knocks down a fence. You can always go play drums for a little bit, and that just takes everything away.
I'm sitting here looking at my drum kit. I got a new kit, in the last year or so from DW that is so fucking gorgeous. I can barely stand it. I'm just looking at it right now, and it is so beautiful. God, it's a beautiful kit. And their craftsmanship is fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff.
Beautiful kit. It's old green sparkle. So cool looking. What does it say here? I haven't even really looked. I can't wait. I've had them set up, but this is called the Jazz Series. Sounds great. I've played this kit. Yeah, I can't wait to get it set back up. I'm getting these heads from Evans, which reminds me I got to call them the minute I get off the line with you. That allows you to be able to play drums. You put these heads on and it kind of muffles it, so I'll be able to play drums here at my house and then my house in Baltimore, so I can have a kit on both sides. We're sending one of my kits to Baltimore today or tomorrow, so that I have that and can rehearse, play my own, play my stuff.
That's great.
I don't have to pay for a rehearsal studio. So these hoops, I can't wait to put these heads on on my kit.
That's
and,
great.
Start playing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Gina, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know this has not been the easiest night for you.
Oh my God, what a crazy day. I'm so sorry. It's just nuts. Did I answer everything that you asked me? Because there were so many times I was in the middle of something and it got cut off.
No, actually you did. You answered all the questions I had prepared. And it was great, just as long as you don't mind me adding a couple of things in there to put it all together.
Because we got interrupted so many fucking times.
It'll be good.
Okay, I hope I answered everything you needed, babe.
You did. You did great. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, Gina. Thank you so much.
All right, darling. Mike, check in. Let me know if everything's cool, okay?
Will do. Thank you, Gina.
All right, darling. Bye-bye.
The name of Gina Schock's book is called Made in Hollywood. It's a great, fun book with some terrific pictures of her and the rest of the band. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like it, share it, review it, tell all your friends about it. You can reach me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to know what you think. And thanks again for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.